What if I tell you that it's never too late to change life? That you can change your life any moment, no matter how old you are, no matter what's your situation, if you have kids or not. It's just about grasping the right moment, the opportunities that are given to you, and just following your heart. And being patient, resilient, that's probably the main qualities that you need, but it's never too late. Every single person can do it.
Sooner or later, change would have to come, you know? So we may as well embody that change we want to see in that sense, you know? Like have that change be something positive rather than holding on to something that is meant to collapse or that is not meant to withstand, you know?
If we want our freedom, we have to take it now, together, and not expect anyone else to give it for us. I don't have much under my name in my bank account, but I still feel the richest man on earth. And I can give everything I have tomorrow. If I still have this family and I still have this garden, I'll still feel rich and wealthy. And I wish everybody could feel that way.
My journey started a long time ago in Paris, where I was born, in a big city. I loved Paris. It was a very kind of like village life. Everybody was going to the same baker, to the same butcher, to the same fruit and veggies shop. So it was already a small little community in that building.
Back then was not that much computer quite yet, so it was still like on the bicycle, out in the bush doing mischief, you know, like or just going on adventures. It was so like very bright memories from like my youth in France. It was very nice.
In front of the apartment block there was a big field and a forest. And so us kids would play together in that field, play soccer, we'd play rugby, climb up trees and build tree houses. And yeah, we grew up in a community that was really tight.
In that residence we were living, it was great. I mean, for many years, we lived there for 18 years and it was fantastic. Like we kind of ended up organizing a big festival once a year where everybody would come, and you know, it was just fantastic life.
After that, going to school, things got a bit harder, I think, for myself. I was that kid who would always look outside the window, hoping to escape. It's always that weird feeling that something wasn't right.
If every human seek their self-interest, like it will benefit everyone. Well, maybe not, you know, maybe not. When the greed is stronger than the need, then like you have excess coexisting with like desperation and yeah, the needy. So it's like maybe the beginning of me like starting to doubt a little bit the system and starting to seek for maybe better, like believing that we could do better.
What was difficult when we moved outside of Paris, there was kind of no nearby shops, small shops. There was that big supermarket. So I had to go, I was 40 already, and for the very first time in my life, I had to do shopping in that big supermarket. And I hated it. And then James lost his job. And one day he said, what about I look for a job in Australia? And it was a bit of a shock, and I said, okay, if you find a job, why not?
The first 4 years in Sydney were incredibly hard, paying rent, paying for food and working in restaurants at night and studying during the day full time.
It was the first time I had the freedom to feed my intellectual curiosity the way I wanted, you know.
So I really liked Sydney, and it's a beautiful city. But then I had to go back to shopping in the supermarket. And so I was back to square one, and there was no other option. So I was back to kind of like that feeling, you know, of not being really happy with what I was doing. And plus, we were living in that apartment, and Jeffrey left all his friends and his from school and from rugby. So he would spend his whole time in his bedroom studying, reading. And I wasn't too happy, because from a very social life, all of a sudden he was locked in that small bedroom. So I was worried about him.
It really felt like I went inward and I connected deeper with like with the country, with the place, and what it meant at that stage in my life and what it offered of opportunity. And from there, like, everything happened.
So I talked to Wendy about Jeffrey, and I was worried, and she's known Jeffrey since he was born. So she said, I need some help in the garden, and do you think that Jeffrey would come and help? And say, I'm sure he would.
She told me like, well, you can help me in my gardens. And that was my first introduction to permaculture and like hands-on and gardening. And then she'd get me gigs to do a little bit of work for her friends in the community, so meeting more like super cool retired people that have been gardening, and like kind of alternative and creative people, like still like living in the city but like in alternative ways.
And Jeffrey came up with permaculture after coming back from spending a weekend at Auntie Wendy, and he told me about this thing that he was starting to study really excitedly. And at first I made fun of him.
As I got into like the hands-on aspect of like urban permaculture, I started getting into the philosophy and the founding principles, and like it hit me at this stage that like that was exactly what I was looking for. Like that was the natural conclusion to like the situation we were facing as a species, it seemed like the natural conclusion to the problems we're having.
It took me buying my own place and having a garden of my own and starting to grow things to understand the power behind growing our own food and growing what we need.
It felt like the future, and it gave me a sense of peace knowing that we could do something about what's happening in the world, you know.
After buying that house and starting gardening, I started to understand what Jeffrey meant a year earlier about permaculture and the power of that philosophy.
So one day they came home, and William told me, he said, Mom, instead of buying a house in the suburb, why don't we buy a farm and live together? And I remember thinking, that's the most stupid idea I've ever heard. I was born in Paris, in one of the biggest cities in the world. I don't have a green thumb, and I never had. I love flowers, I love plants, I love fresh fruits and vegetables, but I just don't know how to grow them.
And I get a call at some point from Will saying like, I'm managing to convince the parents to get a farm, like I need your help, we need you here so you can help us out.
So we kind of, we looked for a place to buy around Belinchen, and we went there a few times with Jeffrey on a weekend, like back and forth. It was very expensive, and it was also way too far for James. James was still working, and James said, oh, what about Forster area? So we started to look, everybody was starting to look around here. William and his ex-girlfriend Isis found it on Gumtree, this property.
So we found this place in 2016, I believe. Visiting the farm, yeah, for the first time was like a dream come true.
I remember when we kind of started to visit, it was already all set, like everything that is there was already there. I had the same feeling when we bought that flat in outside of Paris, when I visited the space, when I entered the space, and I thought, that's where I want to live, that's where I want my boys to be. I had that exact same feeling at that time, that when I arrived here. I thought, that's it, that's a place.
It was an offer my family couldn't refuse. I fell in love with the place instantly, and I think my parents bought their house before even visiting the house downstairs or knowing that there was a house downstairs. Yeah, it was a done deal the moment we got here.
So we had to adapt, you know, there was some adaptation, but I feel like that pressure was more like it was when Will arrived here, it was like kind of expecting the space to grow faster, or like I guess us to be more active, like, but I guess this is the kind of coming in from the pace of the city to the space, like I had 1 year to accommodate to the rhythm here, you know, and like slow way down. But when William came in, like it needed the time to accommodate to different rhythm.
So yeah, the first year we found the farm, I was really lost. Careful what you ask for because you might get it. It's a lesson that keeps coming up.
There was a lot of frustration. So the first years were really tough, really hard, because when you see what you can do and you can't really get exactly where you want to.
And that's been a journey we've been on, like being able to coordinate both of our approaches that are quite complementary in a sense. The farm is here for us and not us for the farm, you know, like it's important we remember that it's a matter of us living a good life here and not slaving away for the farm.
The importance of making mistakes, and yeah, society doesn't teach us this. Society wants us to make no mistakes or be afraid of making mistakes. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. I'm trying to make mistakes every day. If I haven't made a mistake one day, it's a failure.
The whole process teaches you patience, and that's what that space taught us, is like to be patient. We needed to kind of like fully embrace that space, to completely being inspired by it. And it takes time.
The place teaches you, the country teaches you. It's like a different rhythm. And the plants know what they want, you know, so if you pay attention, eventually like it becomes second nature. Like the more I live here, the more I seem to understand that maybe the Aboriginal people and Aboriginal lifestyle would have like maybe like the later stage of human evolution, you know. And we're only in our infancy in like a modern Western civilization, and maybe we get the opportunity to learn from our grandparents, you know, on their land.
So I opened the Airbnb and that was working really well. It was a lot of work, but it was working really well. So there was that positive side, that seeing something that I finally achieved and worked. But there was that other part where it was like taking kind of a bit of time, and it was like a bit not going the way I thought it should, which is silly. I mean, it's totally kind of like, but it was the pressure I was putting on myself.
It wasn't easy at first to pitch the idea to my mum that I wanted to invite more people here and start a community. It took reminding Mum where we grew up and where she raised us to help her realise that what she had done for us was raise us in a community. We need each other. We need the land needs us, and we really need each other. We can't do this alone, and why would we? It's more fun when we're together.
The system is trying to resist natural change, and it's like resisting the natural flow of things. And in that sense, like us doing this, we're in the flow of what is meant to be, and we've got so much more power than like the system living out of fear and all out of momentum, you know.
We give a lot to the land, but the land gives us a lot as well, and that's permaculture, really. You know, it's a. Now I guess the circle is the loop is closed through my boys that are cultivating, and so that idea that I always had, buying fresh produce from locally grown and everything, my boys are doing it now. So it's actually like, you know, it's a nice end of the circle. I mean, it's not the end. There is a lot to be done.
It's like one of the big transition moving here to the countryside is finally getting the opportunity from transitioning from consumer to producers. My partner like doing like natural medicine from herbs, like she harvests here and uses the place for massaging as well. The friends and mom like organizing a co-op in the local town to bring some fresh good food to the local community, and selling some fresh eggs from the farm to the local community as well. So we're not gonna do it all by ourselves, but having the opportunity to share seeds, share know-hows, or share time, you know, like we've got a good team to do some good work, you know. Mom making our own bread, and obviously making our own jams and having our own fruits from here. Like, it's been a blast being able to benefit and share that opportunity and inspire other people to do the same.
For all of us who ask themselves the question, how can I get my freedom back? I really invite you to have a look at permaculture. For me, it was salvation. It was the way out which nobody else could give me but myself. So I urge everyone to check out permaculture and hopefully find that freedom within themselves.
It's exciting times.
It's not easy to change completely, but it's never too late. And it takes a lot of patience, a lot of resilience, but when it works and when it's kind of like blossoms and everything, it's so fulfilling. It's amazingly fulfilling to be as a family in a same space, all living our dream together. That's the most beautiful thing you can think about, really. No, I think it's, yeah, it's great.
It's a nice toilet.